Hello, I'm Dr. Chiddy, and welcome to Life Colours, the program that helps you reverse, improve, and prevent disease. Today we're going to be looking at the red life colour, which is hypertension. So the life colour we're dealing with today is hypertension, the red life colour. Hypertension affects about a third of the population in the UK. I'm sure everybody knows somebody with high blood pressure. Maybe you have it yourself. The normal blood pressure is supposed to be below 120/80. That figure of 120/80 should be the absolute maximum that your blood pressure is at rest. What does the 120 mean? 120 means the systolic pressure. That is the pressure in your system when your heart pumps blood through the system. The 80 diastolic pressure is the pressure in the system when the heart is at rest. The ideal blood pressure, the blood pressure you should aim for, is 110/70. The question has to be, why do we get hypertension? Why is it so prevalent? How can a third of the population have high blood pressure? Well, if you look at the textbooks, it says that 95% of the people who have high blood pressure have what we call essential high blood pressure. That's a clever way of saying, well, we don't know what causes it. But have a look at this. These are the risk factors for high blood pressure. If you have any of these factors, you have an increased risk of having it. A family history of hypertension, being Afro-Caribbean in origin, being a male, yes, sometimes it's hard to be a man, or a female who's post-menopause, being obese, diabetic, if you smoke, you have high salt levels in your diet, lots of stress, and a sedentary lifestyle, a lifestyle without any exercise. All of those factors are risk factors for having high blood pressure. But it doesn't seem to be a great leap of imagination to understand that those risk factors are actually causes. They actually cause high blood pressure. Now, I just want to go back to the unchangeable risk factors that we mentioned. Number one, which said a family history of hypertension. Often people think that, well, maybe it runs in my family and perhaps it's genetic. Actually, that's not really true. The truth is that it's lifestyles that run in the families. To give you an example, as well as the fact that high blood pressure is on the increase in society, in humans, it's also on the increase in dogs and cats. Now that doesn't mean that they're genetically related to us, that just means that their lifestyles, like ours, has been changing. Number two, being Afro-Caribbean in origin. That seems a bit strange that they should have higher propensity for blood pressure than the Caucasian population. But actually it can make sense if you think about it. Afro-Caribbeans come from Africa and the Caribbean, where there's lots of sun. Where there's lots of sun, we tend to sweat more. Now, in order for us not to dehydrate, our bodies are perfectly adapted to hold on to sweat more. Now, in order to hold on to sweat more, we hold on to salt more, because where salt goes, water goes. So if you then have the typical Western diet, which is high in salt, you are more sensitive to become hypertensive. And the fact that we're male increases our risk simply because we don't have the same levels of estrogen in our system. When women go through the menopause and lose much of their estrogen, they have the equal risk of hypertension as men. High blood pressure is what we call a silent killer. There are many people today walking around who have sky-high blood pressure just waiting to have a stroke or to go into kidney failure. These are just two of the complications of high blood pressure. I consider hypertension a warning sign in itself. If you don't take the warning to change your lifestyle, it can lead to all sorts of other illnesses, such as anxiety and depression, cancer, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's. So high blood pressure is not just a sickness in itself, it's a warning sign that something's going on in your body that can lead to even more serious consequences. So you should take note and do something about it. It's a bit like having a warning sign on your car. I remember I bought a car with all the money I had, and when the warning lights started to go off, I didn't have enough money to repair it, so I ignored them. Until one day I was driving through a busy part of central London, and the bonnet came off and loads of smoke filled the air and everybody was looking at me, and it was incredibly expensive to fix. That's a bit like what happens to us if we ignore the warning signs. Worse problems happen later. So let's talk about exactly how we get the blood pressure rise. And it goes back to the definition of disease. And this is the best definition of disease I've ever seen. The disease is the effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of health laws. That's right, our bodies are governed by millions of laws. One of those laws is that blood pressure equals cardiac output times total peripheral resistance. Cardiac output means the amount of blood that your heart pumps through the system every minute. Total peripheral resistance is the amount of resistance the blood meets as it goes through the arteries. The wider the arteries, the less the resistance. The narrower the arteries, the more the resistance. So if your arteries narrow, your blood pressure will go up. If your cardiac output increases, your blood pressure will go up. This shows the increasing of the peripheral resistance. In this artery, you have a nice wide artery, so lots of blood can pass through. In this artery, there's a narrower lumen caused by the plaque, so the blood pressure will go up because of the increase in resistance. So what can you do about it? Obviously, the first thing you must do is see your doctor. Get into an agreement with your healthcare professional and work with them to lower your blood pressure. Many people say, well, I just want to get off my medication. And in the end, you should be able to get off your medication. High blood pressure medication should never be for life, but you do need to stay on it initially to make sure that your blood pressure is at a stable, safe level. You do not want to have a stroke. But if you want to reverse the hypertension, you need to go on the dark red lifestyle plan. The dark red diet, well, there was an experiment done by Frank Sachs and Dean Ornish out in America, and they showed quite conclusively that people who are on a high fruit, vegetable, whole grain diet have lower blood pressures. And conversely, if they have lots of meat, dairy products, fat and salt, their blood pressures are raised. It was a simple survey experiment, but proves the point about how you can actually reverse the disease. So in the first week to the fourth week, you have to go into a healthy, plant-rich plan. Loads of greens, loads of beans, loads of vegetables, and make sure it's low in salt, sugar, and fat. You can also eat whole grain foods such as rice, whole grain bread, and whole grain pasta. The greens here are incredibly important. Things like kale and spinach and broccoli are fantastically important for you if you have high blood pressure. They do something quite miraculous. When you digest the greens, they release a gas called nitric oxide. That nitric oxide will dilate your vessels naturally. That will lower your blood pressure. Nitric oxide is the same gas that is released when you take the tablet for erectile dysfunction. Therefore, we have a natural way to release nitric oxide. This gives new meaning to the phrase, I'm strong to the finish because I ate my spinach. Now, in terms of what we can drink, if you have high blood pressure, the most important fluid to drink is water. And the reason for that is quite simple. Have you ever swum in a swimming pool? Many of us have. But could you imagine trying to swim in a swimming pool filled with treacle? That would be incredibly difficult. You'd have to put so much energy and force into it because it's so thick. That's like our blood sometimes. If it has not got enough water in it, the more water you put in, the more fluid your blood becomes, and the easier it is to pump around. Therefore, your blood pressure can be lower. So it is vital that you take at least 1.5 to 2 liters of water every day. How do you know if you're getting enough water? Well, if your urine is nice and clear, with just a hint of yellow in it, you're getting enough water. If it looks like Lucozade, then you need to take more water. If it fizzes like Lucozade, you need to see your doctor. Avoid sweet drinks, alcohol, and caffeinated drinks. Caffeinated drinks will raise your blood pressure. So I see so many people who are on hypertensive medication, but they're taking 2 or 3 coffees a day. Well, they counteract each other. If you're trying to reduce your blood pressure, you need to avoid any kind of caffeinated drinks. What sort of exercises can you do? If you have high blood pressure, you cannot do any high-intensity exercises. What you need to do are moderate, brisk exercises, such as walking. 60 minutes a day, every day is great, but you have to do that on top of your daily routine. You must avoid stressful stimuli. So things that you can avoid, such as stressful movies or TV shows or loud music, it's very important you try to avoid those, especially in the first 4 weeks of reversing your blood pressure. I always say try and avoid even the news. The news is always bad news anyway, and it doesn't help with your blood pressure. If you're going to listen or watch something that is peaceful or watch something that is uplifting. One of the most important things at the heart of hypertension and stress is having an attitude of forgiveness. All that means is that you're not holding grudges against people. Now, maybe people will have done hard or nasty things to you, but for your own peace of mind and for your own health, it's been shown that by forgiving them, your blood pressure will go down. In fact, there was an experiment that was done that showed even when people thought about forgiving somebody, their blood pressure went down. So the red lifestyle, once the blood pressure is gone, you just want to keep it away. The red lifestyle is similar to the dark red lifestyle, but now you can introduce foods such as oily fish if you want to, and you can drink, if you must, fresh smoothies which are nice and blended. But keep them to a minimum. Exercises, you can increase the intensity of your exercise. You can jog, you can swim, you can cycle. Now that your blood pressure is low, you can enjoy those exercises even more without the worry of having a stroke. One of the things that goes along with hypertension is the type A personality. And the type A personality are people who are go-getters, they want to get things done, they're perfectionists. But the problem with it, it's associated with hostility. And it's that hostile part of the personality that raises your blood pressure. So for that reason, in your dark red plan and in your light red plan, you need to actively practice gentleness. Being gentle with yourself, being gentle with those around you. That is fundamental for you to lower your blood pressure. I hope the Red Life Colour program has helped you to reverse, improve, or prevent your hypertension. For more information, please see my book, Life Colours. You can also follow me on Twitter at drchiddy247. But until then, I hope you live your life with colour.